Hi, I'm Mark from eReplacementParts.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the wire harness assembly on a Weed Eater SG11 string trimmer. Now we'll remove the spool. The spool just simply pulls away from the rest of the trimmer head. Now I can go ahead and remove the spool retainer. The spool retainer is held to the rest of the trimmer head by a couple of little metal tabs. I'll push in on those tabs with a screwdriver, rotate the head around to the other tab, and then pull the retainer free, like that. With the spool retainer removed, now I can just simply pull the spring away from the trimmer head. Now I can install the spool spring onto the trimmer head. Now we'll go ahead and remove the shield. The shield is held in place with a small tab. I just lift the tab up with a small screwdriver, and then I can rotate the guard to remove it. Next, we'll remove the housing. The housing is secured with a series of fasteners. I'll remove those first. With the screws out of the way, now I can go ahead and split the housing. Now I can remove the motor and hub assembly. First, I'll release the wires from the housing, and then I can pull the motor and hub away from the housing. Now I'll remove the wiring harness wires from the motor and hub assembly. The handle set is secured with 4 screws. I'll start by removing those. Now I can go ahead and remove the trigger. It just simply slides off a post on the handle set. Now I can go ahead and remove the switch, wires, and plug end from the handle set. With the handle set and the motor and housing assemblies removed, now I can pull the wiring harness out of the tube. Now we can remove the spring button. First, I'll push one side of the spring button into the tube. Then I'll grab the other side of the spring button with my needle nose pliers as I push on it. Then I'll go ahead and pull the spring button out of the tube. Now we can go ahead and reinstall the wiring harness into the tube. Before we do that, you want to take a minute and find the top and bottom of the tube. The bottom portion of the tube, or the side where the motor goes, will be the part that has the 2 holes for the snap button. So I'll start with the wires that go to the motor, slide those through the top end of the tube, slide the wire all the way through the tube, and pull it out the bottom. Now I'll reinstall the 2 wires from the wiring harness onto the motor and hub assembly. Now I'll place the motor and hub assembly back into the housing. Now I'll reinstall the snap button. Now I can reassemble the housing. Before I do, I want to take a minute and make sure I have the wires out of the way so they don't get pinched when I put the 2 halves of the housing together. There's actually some little tabs located down in the housing that the wires will go into to keep them out of the way. Then I'll make sure that the second tab lines up with the pocket on the other side of the housing. That'll fit the housing back together. Now I'll slide the holes on the tube back onto the studs on the handle set. Now I'll reinstall the wiring harness and switch back into the handle set. I want to line up the wires with the tabs in the handle set to get them out of the way so they don't get pinched when we reassemble the other side of the handle. Now I'll slide the trigger back onto the stud on the handle assembly. Now I'll reattach the other side of the handle set and secure it with the fasteners. Now I'll install the shield. I'll line up the shield with the tabs at the base of the trimmer housing. And then it just rotates and locks into place. Now I can install the spool spring onto the trimmer head. Now I can slide the spool retainer back into the spindle. I'll use a pair of needle nose pliers to squeeze the two tabs in and then push the retainer into place. Now I'll reinstall the spool. I'll line up the line with the eyelet on the trimmer head and snap the spool into place. And that's all it takes to install a new wiring harness on your Weed Eater SG11 string trimmer. We hope you found this video helpful. Please feel free to leave a comment or ask us a question.